Welcome, y'all. My name is Jared. I'm excited to be here with you guys. Hey, we're going to be in 1 Peter 4, and tonight's message is on the fun topic of loneliness. I want you to think back and remember the last time you really felt lonely. It's not a fun feeling, and it's kind of interesting because it's like a fluid feeling because loneliness can take on a lot of different forms. Like, if you think about water, it can be a vapor, it can be an ice, it can be a liquid. Loneliness can feel a lot of different ways. It can be this long-lasting thing where you don't feel like you have many close friendships and it doesn't feel good, or maybe a friend moved away and it doesn't feel good, or maybe you have an interaction with someone who is a good friend that you haven't seen in a long time and it doesn't feel quite the way it did before, and now this feeling of loneliness because this person who you used to spend a lot of time with doesn't feel good in the moment. One of the ways that I start to feel lonely is if I feel embarrassed. And you feel like you got a spotlight on you in the moment of embarrassment. Does anybody else feel that? You hate feeling embarrassed? Some of my most embarrassing moments have been exactly right here. It was 2020. It was the service right before we broke for spring break, right before COVID. And I was walking up these stairs right here where there's a bump out where it goes forward. And if you can look, and you guys can check this out later, I'm not crazy. There's a lip on the edge of the stage where it sticks out a little bit further on just the last step, okay? So come up and check it out so you know I'm not crazy. But I was running up the stairs to MC to do what Trevor just did. And my feet just took a home right underneath that lip. And my body went up there, but my feet didn't follow. So I started to fall, and Holly Lyons was leading worship, and she was standing about right here, and it looked like I was jumping at her. And it may not have been what happened externally, but inwardly, I'm people are gonna think I just tackled this girl who just led worship, and it's gonna look super weird. I'm what is going on? So what I did is, in one of my more athletic moves, I tucked and rolled and did it into a somersault and then popped up. And I think that made people slightly less uncomfortable, is when I rolled up and just did a somersault onto the stage. I was embarrassed. I felt lonely. One of my other ones, this may not be as funny, but it felt bad. I was walking up to MC at the end of the service to conclude the service, and I was worshiping, I was enjoying it, and I walked up on stage and I realized I was not holding what I needed to be up here, and that was a microphone. So I panicked, I looked in my hands, I didn't see one, and I turned around to Holly, she's up here for a lot of my embarrassing moments. I turned around to Holly and I was I need a mic. And she looked at me like this and just pointed at me, and I was I need a mic. And I was I'm telling you what I need. You're not helping me. I was so frustrated. What I forgot is that I put it in my back pocket. So when I'm pointing to her and going, I need a mic, she's going, you have one. You have one. So I'm up here arguing with her for a minute. Give me a mic. It was not my best moment, okay? But loneliness never feels good. It's not a fun feeling. It's not one that people chase out. It can take on a lot of different forms, and nobody loves it. Nobody loves it. Nobody loves the feeling of loneliness. There is a man named Daniel Cox, and he does research with the Survey Center on American Life. And he did surveys between 1990 and 2021. And here's some things he found on loneliness. 46% of people feel lonely all of the time. 43% of people feel like their relationships that they have, the friendships that they have, are not meaningful. For men, this hit a little bit harder. They looked at data in 1990 and compared it to data in 2020 or 2021, and it impacted men a little bit worse than it impacted women. They identified people and asked them, do you have more than 6 friends, 6 or more friends? And in 1990, 55% of men said yes. In 2021, 27%. So half of men lost their friends between 1990 and 2021, 6 or more friends. The percentage of men that said, I have no friends, none at all, zero friends. In 1990, it was just 3%. In 2021, it was 15%. People in general, this is men and women, in 1990 that said they have 10 or more friends. In 1990, it was 33%. In 2021, it was down to 13%. Nearly half of women, 48%, and less than 1/3 of men, 30%, said that they had a private conversation with a friend during which they shared personal feelings in the last week. 21% of men, 41% of women received emotional support from a friend within the last week. 25% of men, 49% of women had a friend tell them that they loved them that week. 30% of men and 48% of women shared personal feelings or problems with a friend, just shared things with people in the last week. What he describes here is he calls it a loneliness depression. A repression and a depression of loneliness. We're not moving towards greater connectedness, we're moving away from it. And then he looked at things and said, okay, what do you do if you're lonely? Do you become the person who wants to go and you become desperate, so you're seeking things out? He saw the opposite. He saw that the people that were less likely to engage in their community, show up to an event, engage with people in their neighborhood, were lonely people. They were less likely to engage in social activities. So this is a rich get richer situation. You're not gonna get to know more people just because you're lonely. So the question tonight is, are we destined for loneliness? I think we can look around at the world around us in an age of incredible connectedness, probably spurned somewhat by the pandemic a couple years ago that changed how things were. People are not connected. People feel this feeling of loneliness. And I think the thing with loneliness that also makes it so weird is that you can be with a ton of people and have the feeling of loneliness. It doesn't have to do with the people that are around you. It doesn't even have to do with the quality of people that are around you. It has to do with the way that you perceive those relationships. So what do we do? I want to start by just talking about Genesis 2:18. If you're here and you'd be like, man, you're preaching to the crowd, to the choir, I feel lonely. This is me. You need to know that God sees you and he wants to act. God does not look at loneliness. God does not look at separation from other people, whether it's perceived or it's real, and say that's not what is good. So in Genesis 1 and 2, God creates everything. He creates this perfect place called Eden, and the world was good. Everything he made, he said, it's good, it's good, it's good. And then he looks at Adam by himself, and he said, it's not good that man should be alone. He sees and he acts, and he created Eve, and they have family, and they have people that are around them. But I think what's important is that we develop skills now. And maybe you're in college and you're like, man, I've never been surrounded by more people than this. This is incredible. One of the things that Daniel Cox says in his research is that most relationships up until the ages of 18 or 24, really whenever you stop going to your highest level of education, you stop finding friendships. You stop accidentally spending time with people and developing friendships just because you've been with them for long periods of time. Can I tell you from experience, from someone with a wife and kids and a regular job and trying to serve at church and doing different things, friendship looks different once you're out of college. It becomes less of like, man, we've spent so much time together, we're already automatically friends. It just kind of shifts and changes. So you can't just trust that you'll automatically kind of fall into them. So we need to develop the skills now, because some of you, what's so exciting about young adult ministry, you guys might transition into a different season of life in weeks or months. Some of you all are getting ready to graduate and move back home, or move to a bigger city, or move to the place where you want to do the thing that you're going to do. Or maybe you're just working here until a certain thing happens and you're going to move. The reality is that some sort of life transition is going to happen soon, and you need to have the skills and the attitude and the help to know what it takes to have relationships and not jump into this cycle of loneliness. So I want to start with, I really just have two big points tonight. And the first one is the biggest step in making and keeping friends, and that's be a great friend. For you to be a great friend. I think what happens a lot of times is that whenever you feel the feeling of loneliness, you end up doing to someone else what I did to Holly. When I have a mic in my pocket and the pressure should be on me and I should be the one searching and I should be the one working, I'm looking at someone else to fix my problem. Well, I'm lonely. I looked at you, I said what I needed, why didn't you do it for me? We do that with our friendships. We expect people to come in and fill the gaps for us when we've not done any work, when we've not invested in that relationship. I want to read 1 Peter 4, verse 8. This might be one of the verses that if you're new to church or haven't been around church, you've heard this term before. You've heard 1 Peter 4, 8. It says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Peter's talking to a group of people. He's telling them, hey, as Christians, you're supposed to love each other earnestly. That means like keep trying, really, really hard workers, like not turbulent, and your love goes up and down, like love through the difficult times, love each other because love covers a multitude of sins. We read that and we go, I want that type of love. I want that in my life. I want those people around me. But I want to scope out just a little bit and look at the verses that surround it to see that it's not just this big idea of love, but there's some really practical things that you and I can do that we can bring into friendships that I think when we do that, we will start to foster the culture in the community of what it means to be Christ followers and love the people around us. So I want to read you 1 Peter 4, 7 through 11, the verse before and the 3 verses after. It says, the end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. That's the verse right before. So what are the things that he's telling us to do? He's not just saying, hey, go and love. He says, the end of all things is at hand. He is reminding them to keep a heavenly perspective in their minds. Sometimes I can get so short-sighted and I can get so tunnel visioned that I forget that eternity is what really matters. And I get convinced that, well, you didn't make me feel good by the way that we interacted at first, so I'm gonna kind of match that behavior, and I'm not gonna, and he goes, let's put the little stuff behind us and keep eternity in focus. Are you looking at your friends with an eternal focus? So therefore, having kept that in mind for the rest of the verses, be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. What he's saying is take prayer seriously. Don't just step into prayer as something that's like, when you think about it, that'd be a good thing to do, to pray for people. He said, pray for one another. Be serious towards it. Be sober-minded. Be self-controlled. You know what it means to be self-controlled? To be disciplined. That I'm not going to let the ebbs and flows of life determine how obedient I'm going to be in my prayer for my community, for my friends, for the people that I'm around. I'm not going to let my circumstances dictate my obedience. How's your prayer life for your friends? Sometimes it's easy to pray for my circumstances. Sometimes it's easy to pray for my health, my family's health. But friends are like this couple steps away thing that if maybe they can get added in, it would be good. But I don't know that I'm always self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of my prayers. So then he tells us, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. First of all, we're not going to get this right. We need to give each other grace. And when you love someone and they make a minor offense to you, you have the opportunity to let that love overlook those minor offenses, the multitude of sins. So what else does he tell us to do? In verse 9, show hospitality to one another without grumbling, to be kind to one another, to give selflessly, to be there for people, to have people in your home, to share meals with them, to share what God has given you with them, and not to do it with this attitude of like, I'll help you this once, it's fine. But a lack of grumbling there, that whenever they leave, you don't go, can you believe their attitude towards my hospitality? We go, no, I'm just gonna be hospitable and kind and loving towards them. Verse 10, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. So what he's saying here is you each have gifts. You have things that you're good at. You have unique abilities that God has given you. Serve the people around you with those things. I think a lot of times we step into social situations, or we step into a small group, or we step into church and we come in and we have an attitude that puts our hands back and we go, what do you have to offer me? Not what I wanted? Fine, I'll go somewhere else. What he's saying is to show up and have an attitude of service, to have an attitude of love, to go, what I have to bring, it's the marriage of what you're good at and what you love to do. And somebody else might look at it and go, I could do that once, maybe a year, but you love doing it. He gives examples. In verse 11, whoever speaks as one who speaks oracles of God, whoever serves as one who serves by the strength that God supplies. What he's saying is if you're away with words and you're an encourager and you're a challenger and you're someone who's gonna push people to better and greater things, do it in a way that honors God. If you have a servant's heart, that you're a helper. You don't wanna sit in the limelight. You don't wanna be the person who's always saying, encouraging, saying all these things, but you can show up and you can help move, and you can be there for them in a time of need, and you can help someone when they're sick, and you can just be there for someone. Do it with the strength that God supplies. And I want you to take a look at the end of verse 11. It doesn't just say, and then you'll have a really cool group of friends. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say, then you will be fulfilled. It doesn't say that. It says, in order that in everything, God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belong glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. See, there's something packed into the way that we treat each other where we have capacity to show the world who God is. We're going to revisit that in just a minute. But I think to have a good community, to have a good group of friends, how do we find the right people? I think it has to start here. It has to start with number one. It has to start with you. It has to start with who you're in charge of. And you have to go and be a good friend. And I think this gives us the opportunity to do that. I think there's two extra little things that I want to throw in here that aren't in the verse, but I think we see in Scripture. Help, show up. Be there for people. Galatians 6:2 says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. The burden word there literally means boulder. That you have a boulder of life that gets dropped in sometimes. A death in the family, a loss of a job, a financial need, an illness that you cannot hold everything up on your own. But if people come in and come around you and are able to each take their portion of that burden, they can handle things with you. Show up for people. Help. No strings attached. No IOUs. No, because I did this, you will come back and do it for me. No, it's a gift that God gave you that you can now give away. The other one I think has to do a little bit more with our attitude towards this. I came across this verse a couple weeks ago. It's Romans 12:11. I'm going to read 10 and 11. It says, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Think about that. Think about the way that you would show someone honor. How do we outdo each other with showing honor? We're constantly hoping for the best for them. I believe the best is yet to come for you. I believe that if God is in your life and you have the Holy Spirit and you have made God the Lord of your life and God is working in you, then he's not done with you. So the offense that we might feel, that might be the beginning of that feeling of loneliness, I'm gonna start looking at that a little bit differently to go, man, I love him, and God's not done working in him yet. So while that hurt, and we don't have to set up our lives where we're just being hurt after hurt after hurt, I think we see in Scripture boundaries. Those are good things, but what we can do is outdo each other in showing honor. That looks like changing the way that I speak. Man, that one got to me this week. Because it's so easy. When there's three friends and one of them leaves the room, you just go, he was a bit much today. It's probably just me. But I have to be careful the way that I speak about people, to people. I can have a sharp tongue when it comes towards, I think you've hurt me, but I'm not quite sure where we're landing yet. So I'm gonna throw in a little dig in our conversation so that I know that hurt you just a little bit. That's not loving each other with a brotherly affection. That's not outdoing each other in showing honor. But then he says this, and this is what I love in verse 11. Do not be slothful in zeal, be fervent in spirit, serve the Lord. I think we can show up to friendship sometimes with like a ho-hum attitude, a little Eeyore-ish, a little like this again. I read a book a couple years ago about culture. And these people were doing experiments to see if people they were testing the productivity of a group. And they would have 6 or 8 people doing a task. And then they would put one, they called them Negative Nancy. They'd put a Negative Nancy in the group, and they would see how they affected the productivity of the team. And they would see what they did. And they started messing with that. And every time it was like you'd see the productivity start to dip. Well, They had this guy, and I need to look up what his name was, but in one of the groups, just in one of the test groups, they were like, this guy was so positive, and he had such a good attitude, it outdid what our test subject of the negative person could do. He outdid it, because he was so positive, and he was such an optimist. And when they would come in with their canned lines of like, well, this doesn't really make any sense. This is a dumb experiment. How are we supposed to do it with these limited resources? He'd come in and go, yeah, but it's gonna be fun to try it. Let's all do it together. And his zeal, his excitement made up for their they were like, we couldn't quantify it. When they were doing research, this guy messed up the study that they had to take this section of it and almost throw it out because he was so fervent. He had so much excitement. We have to take that into account. So what are we looking for in a friend? I think this is a good starting block. This is a great place to be. But I think, what do you look for in a friend? I have 5 things. They all start with T, so you can write them all down. What do you look for in friends? I think the first thing, it has to be the right team. It has to be the right team. I love the NFL, I love the MLB, and right now is free agency season in the NFL. And what you see teams doing is moving things around so that they have the right team. They need a left tackle, they go and sign a left tackle. They need a quarterback, they try to go find the right one. Look at your team. Who do you have? Do you have people that you get to just have fun with? Do you have people that are helpful to you in your spiritual walk? You can look at your friends that are your age, and they might not be the best financially. Guess what? That's okay. They might be 20. That's all right. But what you need to do is go find somebody who is financially responsible and go, can I just ask you some questions about finances? This is going to be a helpful thing moving forward. You don't have to have all the answers, but you can collect a team of people to go, you guys are my helpers. You guys are my team. You guys are for me. So I want to ask the question, who is on your side? Who's on your side? I want to read 2 verses. Hebrews 10, 23 through 25. Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. So what they're saying here is we as a church, we as a people are going to hold fast to the confession of our hope that Jesus Christ is Lord. And we don't have a hope beyond him. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more you see the day drawing near. 1 Thessalonians 5:14, and we urge you, brothers, admonish the idle, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all. You need a team that will come beside you and help you. Be there with you in your specific need, in your specific things. And you're looking at it going, man, my team's at 0. When you said the 15% of people that had friends, and then I'm at 0. You know where you can start? Pray and recruit. Pray that God would give you favor with someone. You ever prayed for favor? It feels like maybe we shouldn't do that in church, where you're like, is God okay with me wanting people to like me? That's just an honest question from a Baptist kid, okay? But I have prayed for this in seasons where it's like, God, I don't have anybody in this stage of my life, in this area that I just need. God, will you give me favor with somebody so it's not weird when I go and ask them, hey, will you meet with me so I can ask you some questions about parenting? And guess what? God's faithful. Pray and recruit. Ask. Let me ask you this. Maybe you have a team. What's the culture of that team? What's the culture of your friend group? Is it gossiping and backbiting and unkindness? And what is the culture of your team? Second thing, so what do you look for in a friend? Team. The second thing is time. Who are the people that you can spend time with? It's gonna be really, really difficult if you start putting together people and it's like, we just don't have the time to do it. We just can't make schedule match up. Now, sometimes you can make a lot of a little bit of time, but who do you get to spend time with? And who do you let impact you? I think one of the things that's really dangerous is when somebody starts to become a believer and get serious about their faith, is they look at the people around them and they go, man, I just can't spend time with unbelievers anymore. And that can't be true, because God called us to be salt and light to a people that needs to hear it. So we need to have a relationship with people who don't know Christ so that we can show them who Christ is. But I think you need to be careful how that time gets spent. Jesus spent time with people, but it was not doing the things that were sinful with them. It was sitting and having meals. It was walking and talking with them. It was simple things. How do you spend time with the people around you? There's the phrase, we talked about it early on, that from childhood till 18 to 24, your relationships are found. I think in adulthood, your relationships, a word that would describe it more clearly, is forged. Your relationships are forged. Your time has to be so intentional. Will you meet with me? Will you talk with me? Will you share with me? Would you be willing to grow with me in this area? Rick Warren said this way: there are a lot of casual friends that only show up because of certain circumstances. And I think with some people, we have to put our hands up and go, that's okay. It's okay to have casual friends. It's okay that you meet people that you only know them because of work. That's okay. But I think we have to know what those relationships are, and I think we have to choose who is going to have a deep investment in my life. Who's going to have a deep investment in my life? You have team, you have time, and you have transparency. It's going to be hard to meet with somebody and you ask all the questions and then you don't open up about anything. That's going to be a really hard relationship. But have you ever had a friendship with someone where as soon as you meet them, they're like, man, you're so good at that thing. I struggle with that. Will you share with me how you do that? It's like, I'm good at that. Yeah, I'll do what I can, you know. It feels like a little compliment. It feels like something that why? Because they have opened up what they need help with and they've been transparent. If you don't let people in on what's going on in your life, you will struggle to grow. That's why when we read in James that it says that if you confess, the prayers of a good, righteous man will do much good and you will find healing. I think a lot of times we're good with God vertically, but horizontally, we have not healed because we have not confessed. What does your transparency look like? Do you let them see the real you? 4, transformation. You're looking for growth. You're looking for things that you maybe knew who they were in high school, and you go back home and maybe they seem like a different person. They're changing. They're growing. Are you changing? Are you growing? What changes? I want to read 2 verses to you out of Proverbs 27. Proverbs 27:9 says, oil and perfume make the heart glad, and the sweetness of a friend comes from his earnest counsel. You ever walk into a room and it just smells right? And you're like, man, this is good. I remember the first time when they redid the Hotel Vandevort downtown, and those doors open, and you go inside, and it's like, first of all, it's beautiful, but second of all, it smells fancy. It smells expensive, and you're like, whatever this is, I want this in my home, I want it in my car, I want it everywhere. What this is saying is that when you have a friend who will give you good and wise counsel, what you found is a sweet aroma that will fill every space. There's a second piece of that actually comes before it. In Proverbs 27:6, it says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Sometimes that counsel may not feel good, but it's what we need. Faithful are the wounds. If I have an illness, I want a doctor who is good, who knows what he's doing and knows the human body to come in and cut out what's bad. I don't want to give it to some person who I don't know. I don't want to give it to someone who wants ill for me. I want it to be someone who loves me and cares for me. It happens over time and wait. I think sometimes we're slow to get into relationships with people because we've been hurt in the past. Listen, relationships are just going to be difficult sometimes. But I think that's where we get to show the character of God in those relationships. Team, time, transparency, transformation, and target. Target, where are they headed? Where is the direction of their life going for them? Like, where are they aimed at? Because if you start walking with them and you go the wrong way, you're gonna be lost too. Now, I had a friend in high school whose dad ran a car dealership, and he would, from time to time, they would make a deal with another dealership in another city, and he would call me and go, hey, Saturday, do you want to drive to Topeka, Kansas, and we're going to drive 2 Lincoln MKZs there, and we're going to drive 1 back because we're doing a dealer swap. And I was like, sure. And you'd make $100, get to go on a road trip with your friend, and on the way back, you just have like it's just be you in the car. Well, he did this with a friend of ours one time, and this was probably 2008. So this was like you printed the MapQuest directions, and you hoped that they were right. Well, they get to where they were going. It was somewhere in Kansas, and he got to Kansas. The 2 guys got out of the 1 car, got in 2 cars, and his friend went in one direction down Highway 70 back towards St. Louis, and Tim ended up getting on another highway, and he ended up in Nebraska. That's not towards St. Louis when you're in Kansas, okay? Listen, who you're following, who you're with, makes a difference. You can see it in your friends from high school. You can see it with your friends from college. You can see it. The way that you spend time determines where you will be. Where's the target that people are headed? Ephesians 4:15, rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ. That we as friends have the opportunity to speak the truth in love to one another, but not without reason and not without a goal, that we speak it in a way that pushes people towards Christ. Where are your friendships headed? We kind of mentioned this at the beginning, and I want to revisit it. I think our friendships have a big opportunity that we leave on the table. In 1 Peter 4, he said, do all these things, love each other this way, be selfless with one another, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. And that's not just a one-off verse about what the meaning of community can do and that God might get a little bit of glory by you doing it. This is true throughout Scripture. John 13:34-35 says, a new commandment I give to you, that you will love one another. Listen to the standard. Just as I have loved you. A selfless love, a sacrificial love, a love that says, I love you even when you are opposed to me, even when you didn't care about me, when you were indifferent, when you didn't know me, I still loved you sacrificially. I still wanted to show up for you. I still wanted to be there for you. He says, just as I've loved you, you are to love one another. And listen to this standard. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. What we get to see here is that there's a world who is waiting and watching to see if what we say is really true. And the world will know, not by the words that we say, but by the way that we treat each other. Who is our God? And the same thing is true in Acts 2, at the beginning of the church. There are people, it's Jewish people, it's Gentiles, it's people from all socioeconomic classes, it's people coming together to create the church. And they write that they were selling what they had and that they were being with each other. And the word that it uses, it says that people were added to the church all the time because people were seeing what was happening, but it says that awe was struck in the hearts of those who saw. Why? Because it doesn't make any sense. Because the way that you treat each other is not what the rest of the world is doing. And I think we leave a lot on the table because we go, I don't think I can be that selfless. But I think if God is your Lord, Not just this, I know that Jesus saves, and that's like a good idea that my grandma taught me, that I learned in Sunday school, that I heard a couple times from a campus ministry. But if God is your Lord, and he is the one who is in charge of your life, we don't get to write people off. We don't get to say, yeah, they're kind of dead to me now. We don't get to say, yeah, God doesn't really have anything to offer me in terms of friendship. That's not true. What if you saw your friends in light of the way that God has treated you? And he says, love your friends as I have loved you. You know what that means? That means when we come to a friend and they have more than we need, we're going back to the well of God and we're going, I don't have everything that you need, but I have God and that's what I have to offer. And I have hope because he has given me hope. And he loved us when we were at our worst. So when as a friend, you don't have anything to offer, you need friends that know that God, that have drunk from that well, who have been given that hope, who have been given that love, so that it's not just the end of them, it's Christ. Will you bow your heads? I want to ask one more question. Maybe you're here and you'd say, I don't know the love of God that you've talked about. And one of the things that I love about God is that God is powerful and he's good. And he's perfect. But it says that he calls us friend. And that's not us figuring it out with God. That's not us figuring out what we kind of did to bring some pain into the relationship and if we can kind of fix our end of it. It's God saying, I love you before you even could take a step towards me. And in Ephesians 2, it says that we were dead in our sin. We didn't have anything to offer God. We didn't have a hope. We didn't have something that we could give him that would give us favor with God, but he said, I will do everything that it takes. I don't know if you've had a friend that has done something like that for you before. There's not even really much of a response besides thank you. And God doesn't just leave us there in that response moment and say, there's not much for you to do. He says, you can have this over and over and over and over again. You can be made new. You can have hope. Not because of what you bring to the table, but 100% what God brings to the table. Because of what Jesus did on the cross. And all we have to do is say, God, I want that friendship with you. I want you to be the Lord of my life, to be the one that's in charge. And while it's simple, it also requires everything of us. For us to get out of the driver's seat and let God drive. And I would be remiss in any message to not give an opportunity for you to do that. If you're here and you'd say, I know that's what I need to do tonight, would you just lift your hand up? You know you need to give your life to God. A simple prayer like this. I remember when I was 6 years old, I prayed this prayer. God, I am broken, and I need you. Will you save me from my own sin, and will you be the Lord of my life? And it says that he'll forgive you, and he'll make you new. And that's where we get any hope of being a good friend and spending eternity with him in the sweet friendship that we get to have. I'm gonna pray, and then we're gonna have a time of worship. And I wanna challenge anybody that maybe prayed that prayer, that they would tell someone, that if somebody invited them or if they met someone tonight, to just say, hey, I prayed that prayer. I made Jesus the Lord of my life. But maybe you're here and you'd say, man, I'm at a relational deficit. I haven't made investments that I know I should have. I've not been the person that I know that I needed to be. And I know I need to just give that back to God. And in moments of surrender, in moments of obedience, you need to just tell God, God, everything I am is yours. We're gonna have some people down front that would love to pray with you. I think there's something to that confession that we talked about earlier. And I think there's something to praising and worshiping his name together. We'll pray and then we'll stand and sing. God, we love you. God, I'm thankful for your word, and I'm thankful for the way that you shaped our relationships with each other, that we have the capacity to show the world who you are because of our friendships, because of the way that we treat each other. God, I don't think we're prescribed loneliness forever, and that is our sentence. I think we can feel fulfilled because we are headed in the same direction as people who love you, and that can change everything. God, I want to pray for the person right now that maybe feels disconnected and feels lonely and doesn't want to do anything about it in the moment because it hurts and they've been burned in the past. God, I pray that you would just be near to them and that you would be sweet with them and you would be kind. God, you're a good God and you're worth following. And God, I pray that we would, as a community, be people that bring people in and show this love, and that it would change our city, and it would change our state, and it would change campuses, and it would change families, and it would change friend groups, and it would be people that are so marked by you, it would change us forever. God, we love you. We thank you in your holy name. Amen. Would you stand and sing? There will be people that would love to pray with you down front.